Texas is changing fast in 2026, and some of these new laws could hit your wallet, your home, your kids, and even the apps on your phone. We're talking about laws tied to property taxes, identity rules, online safety, deep fraud, and artificial intelligence. And here's the wild part. Most people have no idea how big these changes really are until they affect them personally. What if one new law could save you money, while another changes the way your family uses technology every single day? Some of these laws sound small at first, but once you look closer, they become way more dramatic. A simple rule change could mean lower taxes for some homeowners, tougher protection against title theft, or new limits on what happens when minors download apps. And then there's one law that feels like it came straight out of the future, because Texas is now stepping into the world of AI regulation in a serious way. That's right, this isn't just about paperwork and politics anymore. So stay with me, because in this countdown, we're breaking down the top 10 new Texas laws changing in 2026, and some of them are truly surprising. One could affect your retirement, one could protect your home, and one might completely change how you think about technology in Texas. And trust me, when we get to number 4, you'll see why people are calling it one of the most unexpected changes of them all. Number 1, a new tax break for animal feed retailers. At first, this law may not sound like a big headline grabber, but for many Texas communities, it could make a real difference. Starting in 2026, Texas is giving a new property tax break for animal feed held for sale at retail. That means certain businesses that sell feed for livestock and animals may no longer be taxed on that inventory the same way as before. On the surface, it sounds like a small change hidden deep inside state law. But when you think about how important agriculture, ranching, and rural supply stores are across Texas, this suddenly becomes a much bigger story. A tax break like this can help local businesses keep more money in their pockets instead of losing it through rising costs. Now picture a feed store owner in a small Texas town. The shelves are packed with bags of cattle feed, horse grain, chicken feed, and pet supplies. Every item sitting there is part of the business's inventory, and inventory costs can add up fast. When taxes hit that stock, the pressure grows even heavier. This new law could give those retailers breathing room. That extra relief could help them manage bills, hold prices steadier, or invest more into serving their customers. And in farming and ranching communities, even a small financial break. Number 2, more privacy for people in political spending reports. This next Texas law may not sound dramatic at first, but it touches something a lot of people care deeply about: personal privacy. Starting in 2026, certain campaign finance reports posted online will no longer show the full street portion of a person's home address. Instead, only more limited location details, like the city, state, and zip code, will remain visible. That may seem like a small technical change buried inside government paperwork, but in today's world, where information spreads in seconds, even one address posted publicly can create real fear and real risk. For many Texans, this law is not just about politics. It is about feeling safer in their own homes. Think about how intense the political climate has become. Emotions run high, opinions clash, and people often worry that public exposure can quickly turn personal. When someone's residential address appears online, the issue is no longer just transparency. It becomes a question of security. This new rule tries to create a better balance between public reporting and private safety. Supporters say it protects individuals from unwanted attention, harassment, or worse, while still keeping important financial reporting available to the public. In a time when digital footprints are harder to erase than ever before, that kind of legal shield can feel incredibly important. What makes this law so interesting is that it shows how Texas is not only changing rules about money and property, but also about how much of your personal life can be exposed online. It is one of those quiet laws that may never go viral, yet it could matter a lot to the people affected by it. And that is what makes this countdown so fascinating. Some of the biggest changes are the ones hiding in plain sight. Number 3, Texas IDs can now show U.S. citizenship. This is where the list starts to feel a lot more serious. Beginning in 2026, Texas driver's licenses and personal ID cards can now include an indication showing whether the holder is a U.S. citizen. That means for many Texans, a simple ID card could carry more information than before, turning something you use every day into part of a much bigger conversation. On paper, it may look like just another administrative update, but in the real world, this kind of change can spark strong reactions almost instantly. For some people, it may feel practical and straightforward. For others, it may raise questions about privacy, identification, and how this information could be used in everyday life. Think about how often people rely on a driver's license or state ID. You use it when traveling, handling paperwork, proving your identity, or completing important transactions. Now imagine that same card carrying a citizenship marker. Suddenly, it is no longer just about your age, your photo, or your address. It becomes part of a larger debate about identity, access, and government policy. Supporters may see it as a way to make verification easier and clearer. Critics may wonder where that line stops and what effects it could have over time. That tension is exactly why this law is getting attention. What makes this change so powerful is not just what is printed on the card, but what it represents. It shows how even the most ordinary object in your wallet can become part of a much bigger shift in the law. And as this countdown keeps unfolding, you'll see that some of the most surprising changes are the ones Texans may carry with them every single day. Number 4. Property tax protest rules are changing. Now this is where things start hitting homeowners directly. In 2026, Texas is changing part of the rules for property tax protests, especially in cases where owners argue that their property was appraised unfairly compared to similar properties. That may sound technical at first, but the effect could be very real for anyone who opens their appraisal notice and feels that sinking shock in their chest. You look at the number, compare it to your home, and think, how did they come up with that? For many Texans, that moment is becoming more common, and this law could shape how those fights are handled moving forward. What makes this change so important is that it affects the way evidence can be used when someone challenges an appraisal as unequal. In simple terms, the rules of the fight are changing. That means homeowners may need to be more careful, more prepared, and more strategic when protesting their tax value. This is not just about legal wording hidden in a bill. It could influence how easy or difficult it feels for regular people to push back when they believe the system got it wrong. And when property values keep climbing, even a small change in protest rules can make a huge difference in what people end up paying. The drama here is not loud, but it is powerful. A law like this does not need flashy headlines to matter. It reaches people through their mailbox, their mortgage, and their monthly budget. That is what makes it so important. It is another reminder that in Texas, some of the biggest changes in 2026 are not just happening in courtrooms or the Capitol. They are landing right on the doorstep of everyday homeowners. Before you go, tell us in the comments, which Texas law shocked you the most, and which one do you think will impact your life the fastest? We put a lot of time and effort into making videos like this simple, powerful, and worth your watch, so please subscribe to the channel. It's just one click, but it helps us more than you know. Like this video, subscribe, and stay with us for the next big update, because the laws changing tomorrow could affect you sooner than you think. Number 5. A temporary tax break for fire-damaged homesteads. This next law is one of the most emotional on the entire list, because it deals with something no homeowner ever wants to face: losing part or all of a home to fire. Starting in 2026, Texas is allowing a temporary tax break for certain fire-damaged homesteads. That means if a resident's homestead is destroyed by fire, the owner may qualify for tax relief on the damaged improvement. At first glance, that may sound like a narrow legal change, but when you picture the real-life situation behind it, the impact feels enormous. A family standing outside a burned home is not thinking about statutes and exemptions. They are thinking about where they will sleep, what they lost, and how they will start over. That is exactly why this law matters. It recognizes that homeowners should not be stuck carrying the same tax burden on a home that has been badly damaged or completely destroyed by fire. In a painful moment filled with insurance claims, cleanup, repairs, and emotional stress, even a temporary break can offer real breathing room. It may not erase the heartbreak, but it can reduce one layer of pressure when everything already feels overwhelming. For families rebuilding after disaster, that kind of relief can mean more than numbers on paper. It can mean time, flexibility, and a better chance to recover. What makes this law so powerful is that it shows a more human side of state policy. It is not just about taxes. It is about fairness during one of the worst moments a person can experience. And that is why this 2026 change deserves attention, because sometimes the most meaningful laws are the ones that step in when life suddenly falls apart. Number 6. Businesses get a much bigger inventory tax break. Now we move to a law that could hit business owners right in the bottom line. In 2026, Texas is giving businesses a much bigger inventory tax exemption, raising the amount to $125,000. That is a massive jump compared to the much smaller limit before, and for many small and mid-sized businesses, this could feel like a real financial shift. At first, inventory may sound like a dry business term, but in reality, it is everything sitting on shelves, in stockrooms, and inside warehouses waiting to be sold. And when that inventory gets taxed, the burden can build fast. So when Texas raises that exemption, it is not just changing paperwork, it is changing pressure. Picture a small business owner walking through a store packed with products, knowing every item represents both opportunity and cost. There is payroll to cover, rent to pay, energy bills rising, and customers expecting prices to stay reasonable. A larger tax break on inventory could give businesses more breathing room, more flexibility, and a better chance to grow instead of just survive. For some, that extra savings could go toward hiring workers. For others, it could help keep prices from rising even more. And in a shaky economy, that kind of relief can feel huge. What makes this law so important is that its effects can spread far beyond business owners themselves. When businesses get relief, employees, customers, and entire communities can feel the difference too. That is why this is not just a law about inventory. It is a law about cash flow, local jobs, and whether a small business can stay strong in 2026 when every dollar matters. Number 7. Texas quietly rolled out a major AI law. This is where the countdown takes a sharp turn into the future. In 2026, Texas is not just talking about artificial intelligence anymore. It is officially stepping into it with a major new AI law. That means the technology many people still think of as something distant, experimental, or only for big tech companies is now being pulled into the legal world in a serious way. And that is exactly why this law feels so surprising. A lot of Texans are still getting used to AI showing up in search results, chatbots, schools, customer service, and workplaces. But while most people were still trying to understand what AI can do, Texas was already building rules around how it should be handled. What makes this law so dramatic is that it touches a subject filled with both excitement and fear. AI can help businesses move faster, answer questions, detect fraud, and automate tasks. But it can also raise major concerns about fairness, privacy, trust, and misuse. That is why this new Texas law matters. It signals that the state sees AI as powerful enough to need limits, oversight, and clear boundaries. In simple terms, Texas is saying this technology is no longer just a cool tool. It is now something serious enough to regulate. And once the government starts drawing legal lines around a technology, you know it has entered a whole new stage. The real suspense here is not just what the law says today, but what it could mean tomorrow. Could this shape how AI is used in schools, jobs, public services, or even the apps people rely on every day? That is what makes this one feel so huge. It is not just a law for 2026. It may be the beginning of a much bigger shift Texans will be talking about for years. Number 8. Texas is cracking down on deed fraud and title theft. This next law could protect something far more valuable than a paycheck or an app download. It could help protect your home itself. In 2026, Texas is cracking down harder on deed fraud and title theft, two problems that sound almost unbelievable until they happen to someone in real life. Imagine waking up and discovering that papers were filed, ownership records were changed, or your property was targeted without you even knowing. It sounds like something out of a legal thriller, but for some victims, it becomes a nightmare that is painfully real. That is why this law matters so much. Texas is sending a clear message that stealing property through fake filings and fraudulent paperwork is not a small technical trick. It is a serious crime. What makes this change so important is that it aims to make property fraud harder to pull off and easier to punish. For homeowners, especially older adults, families handling inherited property, or people who own vacant land, this kind of protection can be incredibly important. A single fraudulent document can create confusion, legal battles, and emotional stress that drags on for months or even years. This law adds stronger tools to fight back, and that gives many Texans a better sense of security in a world where paper crimes can have devastating real-world consequences. The fear behind deed fraud is simple but chilling. What if someone tried to steal your home without ever stepping inside it? That is exactly why this law deserves a place on this list. It is dramatic, deeply personal, and tied to one of the biggest things most people will ever own. In 2026, Texas is making it harder for fraudsters to play games with property records, and for many people that is a very big deal. Number 9. App stores must verify age and get parental consent for minors. Now this one could affect millions of families because it changes something children and teens use almost every day: app stores. In 2026, Texas is requiring app stores to verify age categories and, in certain cases, get parental consent for minors. That means downloading an app may no longer be as simple as just tapping a button and moving on. For parents, this may sound like a layer of protection. For teens, it may feel like a major new barrier. And for tech companies, it is a sign that Texas wants much tighter control over how young users enter digital spaces. What makes this law so dramatic is that it reaches into the front door of the online world, where so much of modern life now begins. Think about how much time young people spend on phones, games, messaging apps, and social platforms. A single download can open the door to strangers, addictive content, late-night scrolling, or information parents never even knew was being shared. This law is built around the idea that minors need stronger protection before they even get inside those digital spaces. That is a huge shift. Instead of leaving all responsibility to parents after the app is already installed, Texas is pushing the control point earlier, right at the App Store itself. That changes the whole experience from the very first click. What makes this law so powerful is that it touches a daily habit almost every family understands. It is not some distant legal issue hidden in government language. It is something that could show up the next time a child tries to download an app. And that is exactly why it belongs on this list, because in 2026, Texas is not just changing laws on paper, it is changing the digital routines people live with every day. Number 10. Bigger property tax relief for seniors and disabled homeowners. This final law may be the most personal of them all, because it hits one of the biggest worries many Texans face: the cost of staying in their own home. In 2026, Texas is expanding property tax relief for seniors and disabled homeowners, giving many of them a much larger school property tax exemption than before. That may sound like just another tax adjustment, but for people living on fixed incomes, it can feel far more serious than that. When property taxes keep rising, many homeowners do not just feel annoyed, they feel trapped. They worry that after years of hard work, they could be priced out of the very home where they built their lives, raised their children, and planned to grow older in peace. That is what makes this change so powerful. For seniors and disabled Texans, every dollar matters, and even a modest break can ease real pressure. A larger exemption can mean a lower tax burden, more breathing room in the monthly budget, and less fear every time a new bill arrives. Imagine the relief of opening that statement and realizing the numbers are not climbing the way you expected. For some families, that could mean more money for medicine, groceries, repairs, or simply peace of mind. And when you think about how many older Texans are trying to hold on to stability in a more expensive world, this law suddenly feels enormous. What makes this the perfect ending to the countdown is that it brings everything back to everyday life. This is not just about policy. It is about dignity, security, and the ability to remain in the place you call home. In 2026, Texas is not only changing rules on paper, it is changing what homeownership may feel like for some of the people who need relief the most. So when you step back and look at the full picture, one thing becomes crystal clear. Texas is not easing into 2026 quietly. These new laws are reaching into some of the most important parts of everyday life. Your home, your taxes, your privacy, your business, your children, and even the technology shaping the future. Some of these changes may help people save money. Others may create new rules, new responsibilities, or new debates. But no matter where you stand, these are not the kind of laws most Texans can afford to ignore. What looks small on paper can feel huge when it finally shows up in your mailbox, on your phone, or in your monthly bills. And that is what makes this list so powerful. These laws are not just legal updates. They are real-world changes with real-world consequences. A homeowner could feel relief from a tax break. A family could face new App Store rules for their children. A business owner could get more breathing room, and someone worried about fraud, privacy, or AI could suddenly realize that Texas is already moving faster than they expected. That is the part that makes all of this so fascinating. The future is not just coming. In many ways, it is already here, and Texas is writing it into law right now. So the big question is, which of these new Texas laws do you think will have the biggest impact in 2026? Is it the property tax changes, the protections against deed fraud, the new rules for minors online, or that surprising AI law that feels like something out of tomorrow? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next big update. Because if you thought these changes were surprising, just wait until you see what is coming next.